Let's get some key highlights now out of that midterm budget policy statement by the Finance Minister. Newzroom Afrika business editor Xolani Mbanjwa talks to us now. Xolani, good evening to you. So government will spend money to save money by enticing civil servants to take early retirement. What's the end goal here?
Good evening, Oli. It does sound ridiculous, but it has some thought behind it, and it's something that is quite important for the government. It has done it before in 2019, where it was enticing those older civil servants who account for a larger part of the wage bill to take early retirement. As we know, retirement is at the age of 65 officially, but they are looking for those who are at the age of 55 and 59, and they are actually putting aside 11 billion rands for the next 2 financial years to make sure that they're enticing these people in order to retire early, to save money in the long run. You'll say how, but there's a lot of money that is being spent by the government. If you consider the fact that the #1 single spending item on government books is the public sector wage bill, followed by what it is spending on Eskom to get 60% of Eskom's debt under control, as it has taken that debt on. So that is quite an important one. And he was saying also, it's not only about getting the old wood out or the older people out who are earning much more money, but it's also about trying to get younger people into the civil service. When it comes to how the debt is, that issue of for every rand that the government collects in revenue, 22 cents is spent on debt service costs. And when you look at other things that the government spends on, it actually leaves 20 cents for new projects for every rand that is out there. It's something that is quite serious, but that we are going to get more details on later on in February.
Let's talk about the low economic growth environment that's again been projected. What does this mean for jobs, service delivery?
It's a sad state of affairs, really, when opposition political parties, unions, civil society afterwards described this midterm budget policy statement as lukewarm. It is because it was indeed that. The budget issues aside, when it comes to economic growth, we know that our economic growth has been stagnant, and when you don't have economic growth, you therefore do not have money to collect when it comes to revenue, and you can't invest that money in those income-generating projects, and therefore you can't create jobs and stimulate the economy. And it's something that is quite serious, that now the forecast for economic growth for this year has been revised downwards from 1.3% earlier this year to 1.1% right now. And that is a far cry from what the private sector told us. The captains of industry told us 3-4 weeks ago during the partnership signing that they can actually stimulate growth to 3.3% in South Africa. The 1.1% is really, really low for a country of the needs and the inequalities in South Africa, and it is something to worry about, that on the one side you've got debt, and on the other side you've got so many needs, and at the same time you have the wage bill that is eating away at some of that particular growth. We need economic growth as a country, and it is not happening fast enough.
Yeah, finally and briefly, Xolani, let's talk about some positives that have come out of this in the medium term.
Speaking to the finance minister, he did say that those teachers who are looking for jobs, who are graduates in Eastern Cape and KwaZulu-Natal, he might have something to say about them in February. But he was explaining that there was money allocated for the education department. Budget was cut. The previous year budget was returned, but it was not used to hire teachers. There are some good news on the side also of the public procurement bill, because that bill its aim is to empower black people who have been marginalized by ensuring that you ring-fence some of the government spending to go towards black businesses. It's something that is quite important for a country with a population that is majority black and that has felt marginalized. There have been other positive issues that the minister has spoken about in the taxi industry, as well as getting the municipalities out of their electricity debt. But the good news is that the forecast as well on load shedding is a summer that is bright. So this is actually some of the bright good things that have come out in also on the side of the grey listing of South Africa. We are meeting those things that the Financial Action Task Force has set down to meet before the end of next year in order to be taken off the grey list, and it is hurting our economic growth prospects.
Xolani Mbanjwa, that's our business editor. Thank you very much for that summation of the mid-term budget policy statement. Well, let's stay with reaction to the mini-budget. This budget has been welcomed by most parties in the government of national unity.
It is quite important for the revenue to be distributed in the way it has been, 47 to national department, 42 to provinces, 10% to municipalities. That is an act of trying to balance. Commitment to reduce the debt is a serious commitment, because the cost of debt is the highest cost in the budget today. If we reduce the debt, we'll go a long way in balancing the way. And the last thing I want to talk about is the Procurement Act. The Procurement Act is empowering the most neglected end of the market, the poorest of the poor. And those people who are going to be developing smaller businesses have an opportunity. Let them grab it and use it.
Absolutely, and it's been a product of deep consultation within the GNU. Ashil Sarupan, the Deputy Minister of Finance, has been working very closely with the Minister of Finance and their counterparts. We believe it's the right diagnosis and this is the right remedy to get South Africa back onto the path of fiscal growth and fiscal sustainability. We simply cannot continue on runaway debt, and I'm very grateful to see the debt control mechanisms there. Moving away from consumption spending to spending on infrastructure that will lead to investment in the country is exactly what we need to get the country moving. No further bailouts for state-owned entities. These are things we've been talking about for years but haven't done. So I want to commend Minister Godongwana and his team.
IFP Chief Whip Nhlanhla Hadebe has welcomed the mid-term budget.
There is a lot of positives in it. Realignment, reprioritization, infrastructure development was mentioned as being reprioritized. Disaster relief, 2.1 billion, the minister said was set aside for it, and 70% of municipalities that had applied for debt relief are going to be approved. So for us as the IFP, we think that that is quite a positive step by the minister towards the realization of the People's Dream.